Hi folks, this is Calvin Kumagai, one of the two co-founders of Fun Fader Games, and I am excited to share with you that we have just released a Unity package up on the Asset Store, and this package will allow you to project your own designs onto game surfaces in Unity, and it will work with any render pipeline you're using, so URP, HERP, it's all good. And there are tons of applications you could possibly use this for, so you could throw up some aiming indicators on surfaces, you could leave scorch marks on the ground, you could throw bullet holes into walls, but the application I was most excited for when we were working on this was spray paint. So included in the package we have a working spray can and about 5 graffiti designs that you can shoot up onto walls in our demo scenes or wherever you want. But let's say 5 just isn't enough for you. You want more, you want to make your own custom designs, put your own personal spin on it, and I respect that. So I thought, why not make a Photoshop tutorial so you can put your own designs in and have some fun. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, in researching this, I found that most of the Photoshop tutorials on YouTube weren't really useful in breaking down the process and recreating the style. But if you're looking to get really deep into this, I recommend looking at people who actually use spray paint in the real world. There's a really good one on graffiti tutorials, so hopefully I'll leave a link to their video in the description. But as far as doing it in Photoshop, let's get started and I'll break down the steps for you. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to download a spray paint brush, and there are just a ton of these on the internet, so I'm not going to recommend a specific one. Google is your friend. The main thing I look out for is I just like to have something that has like this paint drip effect. I'll make it bigger so you can see. It doesn't need to be super sophisticated or anything. Just something simple and you can get pretty good looking results. So the first thing you want to do after you've got your spray paint brush all set up is just set up your brush settings. I would put smoothing to be pretty low, and just in general while you're doing this, keep in mind that it should look like you're drawing with a spray paint can. So a spray paint can can't do perfectly straight lines. There's no eraser on a spray paint can, so just keep that in mind. And after you've got that done, you're gonna want to pick a stroke. So it can really be whatever you want. Just draw something pretty simple and interesting, and for the rest of this, you're gonna just try and incorporate that stroke in whatever you're trying to write. So I think I'm gonna use this last stroke here, and I think I will use that stroke to make a zap design. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Next, we're just gonna draw an outline of our letters with just black spray paint. And as I said before, just remember that it look like you're drawing it with a spray can, so each line will probably be one stroke. And Control Z is your friend, or at least mine is. Maybe you can do it perfect in one go, but yeah, just take your time, and I certainly take my time, so I'm going to probably speed up the next sections, just so you're not boring yourselves to death here, but you know, you get the idea. Just remember to incorporate that stroke you chose. Just absolutely every line you draw should incorporate that stroke. Okay, so now that we've got our outline, just gotta pick a color to fill the outline with. So I'd go for something bright and cool, and just try and fill in the lines. I wouldn't worry about being like too neat. I think having some of the color dripping past the lines is kind of a cool effect, so don't worry about that too much. And if you want to add some extra shapes like stars or bubbles, or I don't know, a giant lightning bolt, now's your chance. Oh, and I don't know if you noticed there, but I accidentally had wet edges turned on in my brush. I'd turn that off. I think in general, when you're spray painting something, you can't see whatever's below it, so yeah, make sure if you have that enabled, disable it. Okay, so now we've got some color in there. Exciting. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to add a black border to our letters. So basically what we did the first time, but for real this time. So maybe be a bit more careful about how things look, but yeah, just you know, take your time and relax. Okay, so now we've got a nice, cool, dark border. So next we can go ahead and add in some highlights. So just go ahead and go into your color picker and pick a lighter, brighter color and start placing some highlights in your letters. And when you're doing this, just remember to keep your stroke in mind still. You're gonna want him to be generally the same kind of shape as the letters you drew, or else it'll look strange. I usually just pick a general direction to weight them towards. Later we're going to add a drop shadow, so I usually put that in the opposite direction. Okay, now we've got our highlights in, so next we're gonna move on to adding a drop shadow. So usually I like to outline it first and block it out and then fill it in. Again, for all of these, don't really worry about being too neat. But yeah, it should encompass the whole letter, and usually I'll weight it in the opposite direction of the highlights, so it's much thicker in that direction. But that's just what I usually do. You do whatever feels right, and let's go for it. Okay, so we're almost finished. Last finishing touch is just adding a colored outline around our drop shadow. So you can pick either your base color or your highlight color, whichever you think will look better, and just draw an outline around the edge. I usually like to make my brush a little bit bigger so you can get the look of the paint drip showing up. Okay, so I think we've got a pretty nice outline around our tag here. The nice thing about Photoshop is you can go back and clean stuff up without much trouble. I think it's okay if there are a few holes or if some areas aren't filled in completely. I think it looks a bit more natural that way, but you know, you can go in and patch things up if anything in particular is bugging you. I think for me, I made those highlights a bit too subtle, kind of boring, so I'm brightening those up a little bit. But yeah, just go in and clean up whatever you need to clean up, and you should be good. Now, if you're ready to start throwing these tags up on your walls in your Unity project, we'll be leaving a link to our package in the Unity Asset Store in the description below. And if you're looking to do this kind of thing with real spray paint in the real world outside, we'll leave a link to that Graffiti tutorials video. Very helpful in learning how to do this. So, if you are one of those very, very wise folks who have decided to purchase our Unity package and are going to be using your tag in Unity, you're going to want to make sure that you have it in a square aspect ratio. So I'm usually pretty good with 2048 by 2048. It just depends on how big you're gonna want the image to be in your game. How it works is it generates a mesh and just lays the material flat on the mesh, so it lines up perfectly with whatever surface that you're projecting it onto. So it's important that you keep the aspect ratio square so nothing gets distorted. And you'll want to leave the background completely transparent, obviously, because you don't want a giant square showing up around your tag. Now, if for some reason you have not yet purchased our super cool Unity package, you can push this a bit further in Photoshop. you want to share it on Facebook with your friends or something like that. And just grab any kind of wall texture you want. Go on Google Images and go ahead and drop that into your background layer. Yeah, so it looks okay, but it's definitely fake. Like, you don't get any of the texture that would have shown up from the brick wall. So if you want to be a bit more convincing, go ahead and duplicate the brick wall layer, drag that to the very top, and set it to multiply. Usually pretty good for me. You can play around with it a bit, but just set to multiply and set the opacity to be pretty low, just till you can kind of start to see the bricks below it. You know, try and find the right balance there, but now you can see it looks more like it's been actually spray painted on a brick wall. And you know, for another 2 seconds of work, that's pretty good. You can share it on Facebook with your friends if you want. Instagram, I don't know what you kids are into these days. But yeah, so this has been Calvin from Fun Freighter Games. Hope you found this useful, and have a good one.